Conversation with. Today we have Jeremy Besnard from Exsensia. I would say a newly growth of a company, but maybe not so new, but new to everybody else in at least the public media. So I was going to say tonight, just so that you know, it will be recorded, this session, and it will be available on the WCAIR website for anybody who wishes to view more, like to listen to us all over again. Or if you wish to perhaps maybe share the link with your friends and colleagues who could make it here tonight, that would be fab. So before we get started, my name is Lauren Webster. I work for the Wellcome Centre of Anti-Infective Research, and I work for the training team as their scientific and educational lead. And so tonight we have ourselves Jeremy Besnard. So Jeremy, I think you can do a better introduction of yourself than I can do. So would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, I'm Jeremy Besnard. So as Lauren mentioned, I work with Exsensia now for over 10 years. And before that, I was in Dundee. As some of you did my PhD for 4 years in Dundee from 2008 to 2012 in chemoinformatics. And before that, I was an organic chemist as a grad in France and moved slowly from the lab to the computer as I moved away. And so I spent 10 years in Exsensia and really started from 3 people and doing most of the technology part and developing the code to now applying method on different projects across the company. And it's very nice to speak to all of you tonight.
Cool. So I was going to say, Jeremy, before we get ourselves started, perhaps it would be good to see who is in our audience. So obviously our audience can unmute or show their faces to everybody, but we can actually engage with them through something that is called Mentimeter. So what I'm going to do for the audience, I was going to say, you are going to see now a screen that appears, and this is a Mentimeter session. And what you can do is you can use the code at the top. So you can use menti.com. So you can type this into your phone. You can type this into your desktop or laptop, whatever it is that you're using. And you can type in the code 99486315. So if you type that in, we've just got a couple of questions for you so that myself and Jeremy, mainly Jeremy, because this is who we are speaking with, so Jeremy can find out a little bit more about his audience and who's all here. So for the first question, it is, what area of science are you from? Now, I left this as a word cloud because I think I might offend some people if I just categorized everybody into biology, chemistry, pharmacology, etc. I was going to say, everybody feel free to share your area of science. This can be your background, this can be what you're currently studying, this could be the disease that you're currently working on, whatever it is, just to give myself and Jeremy an indication of who are you. So Jeremy, if you were to describe yourself, I was going to say, what area of science are you from?
So my area of science is chemistry, and then more recently, say, computational chemistry, to be more specific.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I was going to say you can use chemistry, you can use computational chemistry. I would say that I'm a medicinal chemist, but I would probably be told by some of the biologists I might be part of their team. A mixture of lots of different places. So it's a good amount of answers that we've got in. Okay, so we've got people from toxicology backgrounds, we've got some people from machine learning and computational backgrounds, which is good. So we've got some people with some knowledge already about what we're going to speak about, which is great. We've got microbiologists. We've got data, not sure exactly what that means. That could be data sciences, so we'll just add that bit on the end of that one. Natural products, science art, that's interesting. Science art, that's quite cool. Good. I was going to say public engagement, I was going to say as well. So I would say we've got a great mixture of different sorts of people from the audience, which is great to see. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just move on to our next question. So this is one of the last questions I'm going to ask you all. So it is, have you ever worked with AI before? So we've got yes, no, and would like to. Yes, we've got, I was going to say, I haven't worked with AIs in the sense I've done it, but I have worked alongside people that have, Jeremy being one of them. I don't know where I fall, probably somewhere in between. I think it's a fascinating science. We've got quite a few people from yes, we've got people who would like to, some people with a no. That's probably a bit misleading with the no and would like to. um, so yeah, no, that's a good collection of people. So lots of our audience is going to say would like to know more, and some of our audience already have that background knowledge. But obviously joining in on the talk to hear about your experience, Jeremy, and to answer some questions about AI.
Yes.
So guys, I'm going to leave the last one open for you, and this is a Q&A, which means that we have moderators in the background who they're going to be looking at the questions that you submit, and I'll be doing my very best to ask Jeremy those questions. So this session will be available throughout the entire session. So please do use it. Please do ask us all your pressing questions. There's no question too small or there's no question too basic. Please do ask. We've only got Jeremy here for a limited amount of time. Feel free to stay longer, Jeremy. But nonetheless, so what I'm going to do is, guys, I am going to stop sharing. So you won't be able to see that anymore, but it will still be appearing on your desktop, laptop, tablet, mobile device, whatever it is that you are using. And like I say, I will do my very best to be able to look at them for you. So, Jeremy, let us begin with just a little bit of conversation, shall we? So let's start off because we've got a very varied audience. So what is AI? What is it?
Yep. So artificial intelligence, like it goes back quite a while. Actually, it was already in the 50s when people didn't have like very fancy computer, already thought about it, of having something that is intelligent, like a computer or machine, and almost you could imagine a robot that would just do anything a human can do and really think kind of by itself and moves and be able to answer to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, as we move more into chemistry, what is AI is really a system that can learn by itself and really have this idea that called provide data to it. It will learn, know what is good, what is bad, be able to provide suggestion to people as well on what they have done in the past, and have this idea of a system that can learn from everyone. So you don't have, I have a med chem idea, I have a biologist idea, and you need to pick everybody. So just bring all of this, and you have these systems that like consume from everywhere and be able to just like, right, this is what you need to do now, because I just learned from all of those people, and really be able, and then learn on daily. Every time you do an experiment, is be able to ingest this information like a baby, like, oh, I tried this, it hurts, or I tried this, it didn't hurt, learn about it, and then a month, 3 months later, be able to come back and say, oh, right, I remember this. This is very similar to what I've done before. Maybe this is what you should do as a chemist, as a biologist, any field. And we have this kind of progression of learning as it moves throughout. So I think for me, it's really this kind of part, intelligence is part of the learning, rather than just predict, well, is it a cat, yes or no, but have all of the system around to be able to learn from all the experience. And then, yeah, you can be like another person, maybe the same, giving you kind of feedback.
So is AI, is that similar, because a lot of words get thrown around in science, is it similar to data sciences? If I'm using the right terminology there. Is it similar to data sciences? Is it part of? Does it supplement? Is it on its own?
I think for me, it's kind of AI is a bigger concept, it's very large, and data sciences would be part of it, or at least contribute to the system. So it needs data to learn from somewhere, and this is where, for example, data scientists will know a lot more about what the data is, what format, and be able to feed the system data is its consumable format. So they kind of work together. So it's not like one versus another or integrated. It's really working together on what is the best way to move the data across systems, where data scientists are very valuable.
So you mentioned as well that it's really interesting. You said biology, chemistry, as I say, when I think of AI, I don't know why, but it could be my job role or job role previous. I was going to say, I always think of chemistry. So for instance, could you maybe explain to maybe the audience, how does it fit in, let's say, with chemistry, and then how does it fit in with something biological? Because that's two different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, so it can be very kind of up to the experiment itself. Let's say in biology, where you run lots of assays and you have lots of data from your assays that you may want to analyze very quickly. So you can look at detail, like very precise, almost by hand. Or you can have a system just read all of it for you and tells you, right, all your experiments actually worked today, or they didn't work. Or you may want to repeat this one because there's something going wrong. And this kind of working, also learning from past experiments that people have annotated as being bad or good, and just applies this learning. So it doesn't have to be kind of prediction as well. It can just be something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And in chemistry, again, it's what did people did in the past? Can you predict, is your compound to be active? So you're actually good, you're making a nice compound. Can you make the compound in the first place? Like if you want to actually make it, can you have a system to predict to you, yes, you can make it, and this is how you may be able to make it. And then when you combine all of that together, you can have a system say, right, this is a compound you may want to make, and this is the experiment you should make as well. And it really brings back all of the field in medicinal chemistry in general, kind of biology, chemistry, and I have kind of all the systems in you. This is the experiment worked, this is a compound, this is maybe what you want to do with the compound, and really bringing all of it in one bigger system, I would say, rather than just individual pieces.
Yeah. So for instance, you talked about, capturing those pieces of information. How do you go about capturing all of that? That's all. I mean, already that's blown my mind. How do you go about capturing all of that? Like, is it a Control F on your keyboard? Find me this information. How do you do it?
So I think that's where we're back to the data science is very important to have really people who know what the data is. And that could be, again, biologists, pharmacologists, any field that we had on the cloud world, that's an expert and know what the data means. And then work with people who build this AI system and then maybe able to build model and say, what format do you need? And then works a lot at the start, really going to the detail on what it is. And then when you do it once, then you just reapply and kind of here you copy paste and then you work. That was, I think, is very important. There is a very good connection between people build this system, like the coder and software, and the people who actually make the experiments that we know, right? The data generate is consumed correctly, and the people who are building the system know that whatever is coming is in the right format and they can do something with it. So I think the data science part here is very important.
So, for instance, to set up one of these sorts of models, how many different people are contributing, like from their different backgrounds? How many people are feeding into this system, this AI?
I think it varies a lot. So you can, for chemistry, it can be quite small sometimes. The start of the company, we were only 3 people to build the system. So just one data scientist and one computational person to really try to capture what was public information. So at least we did not have to do this curation. It was done by public institutes. So all the curation was nicely done by somebody else. So we could just capture and do a bit of cleaning and then learn in our system. So you can be, you don't need to be a lot of people if you use like public infrastructure. If it's in-house, then we say anybody doing the work can be included at different stages. So it varies a lot, but you don't need to be an army.
Yeah. So I was going to say, who was the third person? So you just mentioned 2 fields. Who was the third? Who are they?
So at the start of Extensia, we had only, but we had myself, Richard was kind of really data scientist and very bioinformatics, and Andrew Hopkins was kind of professor at the time in Dundee, and more the vision, like what we are trying to achieve. And then with Richard and myself was try to deliver the vision. It's kind of how we actually do it. But we grew, we reached to more people to join, more chemoinformatics and more bioinformatics and kind of the 3D protein, and then bring kind of information again. Like right now we have protein in 3D. It's a nice picture. How do we incorporate in the system? Because every employee before worked mostly in 2D, like myself. And then build up, like every time you have new expertise, what is your background? Chemistry, how do you integrate chemistry? Your background is pharmacology. Oh, new field, we are chemists. What is the data? How do you look at it? And then kind of bring that way. So every time you have a new expertise, discuss with the person what is they are working with day to day and how it can be linked to the system. I think Accenture really moved as well from the data point of view. I think it's that if you build something, it's what are you trying to achieve? So our goal was really, we want to be a data-driven company. So data was always the most important part. So any work we would be doing for somebody was, how is your data captured? What was the first question? Are you writing in an Excel file? Are you writing in a notebook? What is this? And then can we massage it that I can actually consume in our system? So it's more like our systems is the data, and then come to the people. Can we have your data in a format we can use, rather than, all right, we have a notebook and let's try to do with it, and kind of a more dialogue on, we want to use your data, so please provide it in a nice way.
Yeah. So moving back on to AI. So what does AI have to offer in drug discovery? What's it doing?
So I think it provides more framework, like of lots of, I think the best thing at the moment, lots of people are working on it, AI. So you have a lot of papers published available and preprint, so people can read them, more codes, like people actually write software in different university or companies and making available for everyone to do chemistry prediction, synthesis, modeling. I think the AI itself, like the model, may not provide like, oh, this is brand new as itself, but the fact that a lot of people are working on it and developing new system provides new opportunities to bridge from physics or other field and bring it, maybe you can use it in chemistry, and how to build a system. Like we have Tesla working with automated cars. We don't do cars, but is there anything we can learn to make automated synthesis in a robot? It's like really seeing other fields and everybody working on it. It's like provide a lot of inspirations and code sharing and information, and some available online for everyone to try. And I think that's really what provides a lot more. It's kind of just the model itself, which is more powerful than we had before, plus the fact that the community is very large and making available a lot of for free or using their own computing, so people can go on Google and run their code online for everyone on their cloud. And that was not possible 10 years ago, where you have to or your own laptop or limited to whatever your institution had. And now it's more open.
So it's more accessible no matter where you are. I mean,
Yes.
You're talking about Google, for instance. So, I could be anywhere in the world as long as I have internet.
Internet, yes.
It's like, that's the next big thing. I need to have internet. So I was going to say AI can, at least when I think about AI, I think of like its bigger picture, like, AI is going to make a drug. Yes. That's just what I think of. How is it going to make it? I don't know. AI is going to tell me. But, what everyday things could AI be involved in? I'm not talking about, brushing your teeth. I don't know why that came in my head, but not like that. I meant from a science perspective, what everyday things, where could you see it being applied to perhaps like an academic institution? So somewhere that doesn't have such, a massive like infrastructure as like a company, but where could they start, looking into AI?
Yes, I think when to look at is really what are people's current issues or bottleneck and repetitive tasks that they have. So it's like, what do you do every day that you spend 2 hours every single day? It's like, can maybe I automate this? Can a system help me to learn from it so I don't do the same task over and over? And is there any learning that I can do? And that's where I think AI can provide solutions. So even take your pharmacology and you run cellular and you have imaging, and then you tag your cell. Oh, this is a cell, this is a cell, and you start counting. And you do this all the time. Actually, no, you have system available that you can search and find that will take all of those images, automatically find all your cells, and then annotate it for you, counting, shape, anything information directly without you manually doing. I think this is where it provides this freedom to then think more. It's like, right, all these manual tasks I've been doing, I don't need to do it. A system will do it for me. And I can just look at where it fails, or more thinking of experiments I can do and interpreting the results rather than just do more manual tasks. So yeah, it does image analysis. Same if you do lots of chemistry, it may help you to prepare the synthesis. Like if you have lots of ideas of compounds you want to make, can you predict which one is easier to make than others? And at least you have a priority list. It's like, right, those one would be easier to make than this one. You may start that way and then going down the list rather than, I don't know, then pick. So I think it really help at different stages. And really for me, it's like, yeah, what do you do day to day repeating? And is there any learning you can do? And maybe somebody thought about it as well already, or very similar, you may be able to adapt to your own system. If you have curves, you're looking at curve. Actually, curves are images, so maybe you can use, same as people doing imaging analysis, to your curve. And is there any learning you can do so you don't have to look at them one at a time? So I think it's more, yeah, people, what do you do? What are you learning yourself? And can the system do the same learning that you do?
So I'm guessing these sorts of AI, like, you're saying AI, in everyday tasks. I'm guessing that, you need to have quite a good system to be able to accurately tell you, like you said about your curve, the image analysis, it's got to have, it's got to be able to look at the curve. It knows it's a curve. It knows. What would you say is like a failure rate for AI in that sort of respect, being able to do those sorts of things? I mean, are we talking that it's very expensive and very expensive software, or whatever you're using to build this sort of thing? Is that incredibly accurate? It's what's the failure rate like? I think is basically what I'm trying to say. What is it?
I think it would depend on what exactly. I can't put a real number of failure, but it's usually quite good, and you can really have high accuracy. And in terms of cost, some of it is not that much. So I mean, now people can go online, to say they could go collab or other, provide platform, and in a page of code can have a classifier of, well, is this a bird in my garden, and what type of bird it is, and that would be there. People have sorted, and it's just very short code. You just provide your photos, and it will do it for you. So then you can try, well, if I put my curve, will it work? At least to get started, and maybe then you need to learn a bit more kind of the code itself, but some of it is there for people. It doesn't cost much. Let's say some will be already for free, and it's just a lot of more maybe different way of thinking. It's not like, oh, that was done for another field. It's not for my field because my data is different. It's like, actually, how different are you from the rest? And if very, very different, okay, you may need experts, but there may be a lot of learning you can do from other field and bring this information in your hands, and it doesn't cost. The data is there. You may have already the data, so it doesn't cost you to produce it because you have it.
Yeah.
And then it's just a way of trying and testing.
Oh, fascinating. So we've got some questions from the audience. So one of the first ones is, in which aspect of drug discovery, like design, property, activity, prediction, do you think AI will have the major impact?
I
get the feeling this might be no comment.
So I think it's two parts. In the drug discovery part, I think where it can have as the most impact, maybe not there yet, so I think a bit more, is more at the late stage in the drug discovery process. And actually, is your compound to be working in more an animal model and not being toxic and kind of AI already helps in prediction of the compound. Can it be made or not? Activity prediction is usually quite good, like human activity. But when it moves to right now, I mean, putting in an animal, there's a lot of more biology, like it's rather than a single piece of information. So I think there is a bit more work, but I think we'll have a higher impact because then it grades down to all the compound.
So you're saying there's, sorry, so just to interrupt, sorry, just to ask a little bit about that. Are you saying that, I was going to say right now, I was going to say AI doesn't have such a massive impact when it comes to doing the predictions that we would get from having an animal being tested on?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to predict more the things that can go bad, I'd say, because a compound may look all nice in all your assets you have been doing until you go in an animal and lots of things else happen. And one of the reasons is because usually we need lots of data and information to learn, and we have lots of data for all the rest of the discovery program because we test a lot of compound, we make lots of compound, but we don't put lots of compound in animal, and even if we go to human, it's even less. So the learning there is more limited just because we have less data. So I think it's just a more data problem, is less information to learn, but we have more impact kind of down the stream. But we can already do kind of at the cellular level where AI can actually help to understand how the compounds are behaving. So we can build and learn a lot more now.
Cool. So in relation to AI, is there any concerns over its development?
So I would say for chemistry and drug discovery, no. So we are not, I don't think the AI in discovery is going to look and spy on people. And one thing that people feel like, is it going to take my job? I think that could be kind of a concern. Like, is any AI or informatics system or any automation going to take my job and make people, don't need a chemist anymore? Now you have AI, don't need. I don't think that's true. I think it just gives opportunity for people to actually be more creative. And if you have an AI that does reduce the number of compounds you need to make, then actually you can just need to focus on those compounds and not go through manually a lot of them. If you can analyze all your cellular data and say, oh, this looks good, this looks bad, then you don't have to manually look at it. And you can think about, what other experiment I can do, what analysis, and actually being more, when it doesn't work as well, or something doesn't work. Now you may need to debug it. You need to spend time debugging the live assay or the code, but then I need to spend time on it. Well, before you may not have all that time to do it because you're just manually doing the same task over and over. So I think it's just not replacing, just giving time for people to think and do less manual or maybe more focus and kind of progressing that way. And if drug discovery goes quicker, which is great, that's what we aim, then you can do more program. I think we are not short of diseases, unfortunately. So in a way, if we deliver more program, we just do more program and move on. So that's still positive. And then just, instead of solving one disease in 10 years, if we can do one every 2 years, people still work for 10 years, but then they will solve more problems.
That's good. So AI is allowing our scientists to use their minds instead of doing, and no offense to scientists on the call or future learning, but about doing the mundane tasks, weighing stuff out, things like that. It's allowing us our opportunities to use our minds just as we were taught to do, which I think is incredible. It's great that, we could potentially, I know that, AI is still in the workings, but have a system that allows the scientists to do that. That's good.
Also the idea is kind of learning from every experience. It's very difficult for people to speak to everybody around, even small company or big companies, even worse. Or Medchem A had this experience, Medchem B had this experience, biologists saw this. Unless you speak to every one of them to actually learn from all of them, it's very difficult. But if you have the systems that can really learn from all the projects, and when you are on a program and something happens, maybe actually the system will have learned from, yes, that was 3 years ago on this medcam had this, and this is what happened, and the system will suggest do this experiment last time it worked, or this, and so you can actually bring all of the experience that you wouldn't have yourself, or maybe take time or repeat, reinvent the wheel and do it again. Actually, no, the system is like, oh, I learned that. Here's one solution. May not be perfect, but at least it gives direction, and so without having 30 people around to tell what to do.
Well, I was going to say in science, mainly in academic institutions, mainly, there can be a turnover of staff. That could be due to funding or whatever. And, Jimmy, who worked on this project last year, well, Jimmy left, and he left with, his actual knowledge on something, his experience. He didn't write everything down. Bad Jimmy. He should write everything down, but he didn't. And then, you've got to start all over again, learn from someone else's mistakes, but you've got to make them. So that's good that it can help, in that respect as well. Cool. So it's good to know, scientists, you will still be keeping your jobs. I was going to say, you just might be doing things a little bit more quicker than you currently do. That's good. So I was going to say, back to you, Jeremy. Okay, why do you work in this field?
Yeah. So historically, it's because I found chemistry better than physics, but that's a long time ago.
It's okay, I don't think it said there was physicists. I don't think so. If so, we apologize now to physicists.
And really, so my first experience on medchem and drug discovery was doing industrial placement. So Pfizer, big pharma company, and I was lucky enough to be computational there working, and I was involved in lots of projects through a year, and really seeing actually lots of people are working to develop drugs. I mean, at the time before, you just buy it, but actually people have to spend time on it. And for me, it's like, well, some of their work at the time is, I really wanted to help them more, because I was on my computer trying to provide software to be quicker, to give ideas. And I really like this fact of I can help other people deliver drug quicker. And then PhD to do this, and then Excientia was really the same idea as can I help other people at first when building the system myself of can we deliver drug quicker, and just really helping. That was always my idea. And now at Excientia, my work is more using the tools rather than developing the tools. But I think with the same idea as other people that have been joining Excientia, how can they also develop drugs and put drugs in the clinic? And myself is continuing this, so I have not used that went into the clinic, and can we do more and provide other people opportunity? Because for me, it's if we have more drugs in the clinic, we have more chance to have drugs delivered to the patient eventually, hopefully, and really give more opportunities to people to be able to work in drug discovery and deliver drugs to patients is really kind of why I'm still continuing to do that work.
I love your answer there. So your answer had nothing in relation to yourself. It didn't have a personal goal. I love it. I was going to say, you said about how you want to help the wider community, the people who need to help the scientists. I think that's truly a great answer. We're not finished there though, so you're gonna have to keep all the good answers coming. So we've got another question from the audience. So what is the major contribution in terms of project progress that you have seen coming from AI?
So recently, there's kind of linked to Excientia as well. So we merged with a company that works in cellular pharmacology, when they use human sample of cancer cell and then put drugs and then see how those cells behave, and then can give ideas of treatment. So back to the actually clinicians, this drug treatment will work better than this other drug treatment, and to do it fast, and then instead of waiting and see, they can actually use high systems and imaging and AI to actually predict all the behavior on the cells, and then which drug is actually treatment will be better for patient. And that kind of a direct application of now you can go back to a person, real person, and say, look, take this drug rather than this one, and you will be better. So I think that for me recently, kind of experience was something like, wow, it has a person itself, and a direct impact. There's also one is kind of more the number of projects we can do and scale. So I think it's instead of one person, one project, we can 1 person, 2 projects, 1 person, 3 projects, enabling more kind of scaling vertically and more project coming up quickly.
Cool. Another question, do you think the public have an accurate perception of AI? What can we do to help that?
Oh, good question. So I think it's a bit biased of what public think because of surrounding by people in the company, and basically everybody has more the same idea, and my family knows from what I'm doing. I think there's a lot more. I don't think chemistry, pharmacology, anything drugs will come, I think, to general people when you say we work in AI. I think the main thing would be, are you working for Facebook? Are you working for Google? Are you spying?
Are you spying?
Tesla. I think there's a lot of hope and hype. It's like, is it going to solve everything? And as well as a bit of, are you just replacing everything? And what is the limit? Like, actually, are you just building a Skynet or self systems and start learning and become independent? But I think to help is more showing what people do in drug discovery or other fields that apply it and may not be like evident to people that they are using it. I think it's there. Yeah, you have a self-driving car. It's physical. People know have a car. No can see what it is. AI drug discovery is like what does that mean? It doesn't. You can't just say, well, it's a pill, but actually, the pill is not made by the computer itself. It's a pill. I think it's more the outreach of other fields that are using AI and to things that deliver to people, but not necessarily directly something they can see.
It's almost like a rebranding of the word AI because, like you say, they're going to associate it with, spies.
Yes.
That's what they're going to associate with. So, almost like to be like, let's rename it something else. Let's say it's something cool for drug discovery, and that's what we'll use. Cool. So another question, okay, are you able to answer this one, hopefully, as well? Can you tell us how AI has impacted on a specific project you've worked on?
Yes, I can. So recently, it was presented this month at a conference, so in AACR, so it's a conference around oncology. So for one of our project for oncology target, kinase, where we looked to find a new compound for it, and it took less than a year, and around 130 compounds made in the project to actually go from this is the target we want to a compound that now moving to IND studies, and we learned from everything in that project. So from competitor compounds, from all the data available, we were testing in vivo. So you put a compound in mouse, see how it behaves, and take this data as well to build new model to predict what we're going to do. So that was very fast and kind of all in silico to really learn from all the information we could get to get our compound as quickly as possible. And then moved back to this cellular and pharmacology. And it went to this human cell, mapped out with the system, and then see how we have an effect in human patient-derived cancer cell. So all bigger picture from the start of this project to human patient cell, and very quickly just the different AI pieces along the way.
So to the audience, 134, did you say? That's not an awful lot in drug discovery. And the amount of time that Jeremy is also saying as well, that's incredibly quick. So for people who are new to drug discovery or getting into drugs, that is an incredibly quick process that you've managed to achieve, and that's fantastic as well. And hopefully more outcomes are like that as well. Maybe even with fewer compounds. Who knows?
Yes.
I don't know. No, fantastic, great. So another question for you is, as chief designer, so that is your role at Exscientia, what does your day-to-day role look like, minus all the meetings you potentially have? We're not really interested to hear about the millions of meetings, but what does your day-to-day role, what does it look like?
Yeah, so I think one meeting can have a bad no connotation, but it's also liaising with people. So it's not necessarily a meeting just attending and then not doing, but really when we're on a design project, what are the issues we are facing that maybe our system is not capable now, and then working with different parts of the company, that it's a developer, so how can we improve our system? So it's kind of one key part of my work. And applying, so when developer build a new tool, we apply it and we provide feedback and really see live how it works. So I think for me, doing it live in a real project is very valuable, and I got lucky in my PhD to do that, and really seeing this, like when you develop a new tool, apply it, and you will know is it right or wrong. Continuing doing this is my role. Mm-hmm. Another part is to actually work on discovery project. So I'm day to day kind of designing new compound, analyzing, screening results, and then kind of working on actually delivering new drugs as well, and helping the new people joining the company to be integrating. And really, how do we actually try to do design in Exscientia as well, and then the tools, philosophy, and AI we have, kind of bringing people together.
It's really nice to hear that in your role that a high up role as well, but you are still involved with, the live projects, and the back and forth between, the different areas of the company. So it's really nice to hear as well. So another question as well is, for someone starting off in this field, what advice would you give them?
Yep. So if you want to say computational part, or even actually medchem can do it, or biologist, for me is what is your problem that you have? Can you identify a problem that you do, even if it's small? Then actually write it, and then think, is there a system that could solve my problem? And really start more from the problem rather than like, oh, I've seen this and I want to apply it, kind of blind, or like, what is your problem? What are you trying to achieve? Then move up. What can I do to do it? And in particular, how can you automate your work? I think this is kind of more the question for me. It's like, you are doing something. What can you do to automate it? Is it capturing better? Because maybe you are writing by hand. Can you type it in a computer? So then you can search. It's very simple. That's this. Like, oh, now I can search. Control F.
Yes, Control F.
Then kind of going backwards, like, oh, now I can capture my data in a format I can search. Then what do I want to do from it? Do I want to learn good and bad? Very simple. I want to have system tell me this is good, this is bad. Right? Now you have your data. Read online as a model or publications that are doing this for you, and then try it, and then try on your system, and then continue like this. But really start from what are you trying to solve on your day-to-day work, and then move up until you can automate and build a system, and then you can start from another problem. Now you've solved one, what is next?
Yeah, no, that's good. Doesn't say so. Starting off with your problem that you have, and working with trying to solve that rather than trying to apply the tool and be like, I can use this tool. And now all of us in science, we're all really good at, here's a shiny piece of equipment, and everyone goes, yay, how are we going to use it? So the question should be to all of us scientists is, look to see what your problem is first, and then see how you're going to address it. So I think that is really good. And I have to say, one of the things that took from you was, if you're writing everything by hand, try and see if you can put it into a computer. Like you talked about, such the value in being able to get data to help all of these models, like a global sort of like, sharing. So audience, if you're listening, future audience or whoever you may pass this on to as well, do try and see if you can move away from writing in lab books and things, and try and see if you can put it into something like Word, Excel, something that can be captured and, like you said, maybe even applicable to AI in the future. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, but I think capturing is very important. Even if it's text, now you have AI systems that can read text. I mean, we saw people like translating before, but now you have way of reading text and making sense of the text. So if you capture it, you can find some systems that can learn from whatever you are writing. So I think, if you have data, you can do a lot more.
So scientists in the audience, keep generating that data. Keep doing it. AI will not take your job. Keep doing it, and it will be able to supplement and help. So, Jeremy, I was going to say thank you very much for your time. I was going to say it's been fascinating learning about the journey that you've taken, how AI can help in everyday science, not just, the bigger picture, make me a drug, okay. I was going to say thank you very much to the audience for listening. We have our background moderators, Suze, Farell, Floyd. Thank you again, both so much for helping with the organisation. Thank you very much to CAIR for for funding such a project. And thank you very much, all of you, for listening. And we will see you again. We have another In Conversation With in June, so please do look out for the advertisements, pass it on to friends, family, whoever may be interested, and we'll see you then. And thank you again, Jeremy, for your time.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.